A lot of you are asking yourself, what can I do to improve in 2025? With 2024 coming to a close and the skill ceiling in Rocket League continuing to soar, it's pretty clear that the game's competitive landscape is a lot more dynamic. It seems to be that every month we hear about a new mechanic or a new strategy, pushing the limits of what we thought was possible. So if you came looking for answers as to why your teammates suck and you can't rank up because of them, you're not necessarily in the wrong place. I just won't be going over those in this video. But I do encourage you to take my advice with a grain of salt, as I am not the Rocket League guru. I am simply just trying to help out. We'll be covering in-game 4K resolution, the best settings to make you feel faster, and a look at some of the settings that freestylers choose to use. I made chapters for y'all to jump around in case there was something that you were just looking for or just wanted to skip around. But without further ado, if you like the video, like it. If you don't like it, dislike. But let's go ahead and hop into the video. Okay, so you're wondering a little bit more about 4K resolution. Let's go ahead and talk about that. For the record, I do have 4K resolution, 3840 by 2160. I have everything except for anti-aliasing and render quality on the lowest it can go because I have a 4060 and I can't really run 4K resolution without stutters if I try to run out anything other than that. Overall, 4K is a really good experience. I really appreciate the colorfulness. If you have the ability to play in 4K, I would say go for it, but make sure that your specs actually allow you to do that without much screen tear or frame loss. So as of right now, I have the ROG PG32 UCDP as shown in the picture here. And while I know a lot of you can't or don't want to spend that much money on a monitor, there are other great 4K monitors like it that you can get for a much cheaper price, such as the LG Ultrafine UHD, the Samsung UJ59, and the ROG Swift PG38UQ. I would say 4K, no matter the refresh rate, is far by the best. If you can get it, go for it. If you can't, I would say 1080p 240Hz is still a great option if you're looking for budget-friendly gaming and or just don't really care about that 4K resolution. So I'm not going to get into the whole technical side of things with 4K, but I will show you how my system handles 4K on both performance and high graphics settings. Now there will be a little bit of stuttering on high graphics settings, and it won't be native 4K simply because I have to downscale it for the video. But I'm still going to show you guys, so let's go ahead and get to that. Okay, we're going to try out 4K on high graphics settings just to try it out. And just to show you, this is all 4K, high quality, everything. Alright, so right now, it appears that we are running like a solid 90 FPS right now. Overall, it doesn't really look like 90. I can tell there's a little bit of delay. Not too bad though. What does it look like when you shoot a goal, when you're right in it? We took a slight hit to the FPS, but not too bad, honestly. See, if you're just moving around a lot, having a lot of action in your game, a lot of moving around. Looks like we're keeping a steady 100, anywhere from 95 to 100. So overall, small dips, but for the most part, looks okay. Alright, let's go ahead and try out low graphics settings and see how that compares to this one. Render detail to performance, keep our anti-aliasing and render quality pretty much maxed out. To help out a little bit more, we're going to take low intensity on our effects here. Running much better frame rate, up in the 150s. Again, honestly feels just as clean as 1080p, 240 FPS. And then when you shoot a goal, again, a little bit of a FPS drop, but nothing too horrible. I think overall, 4K, no matter what type of frames you run, is just gonna be good regardless.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock!
One more time in the net. Our frames take a slight hit, but nothing too bad. Alright, so now let's go ahead and try out lower frame rate, just to see how that works out on 4K. Again, we're gonna turn everything up to high quality, just for 144 FPS cap on 4K. So as of right now, with everything maxed except for our effect intensity, we're kind of struggling a little bit, only hitting about 90 FPS right now. When you cap it at 144, it does struggle slightly, but nonetheless, it still looks pretty good. And we shoot a goal, see how low it drops. Little to nothing. Low graphics, we're hitting basically a steady 144. Honestly, it looks slightly better than 240 hertz. So I'm still waiting on a new GPU. So as of right now, I can't really run anything higher than 140 FPS consistently on 4K. But I would say 140 for 4K has slight stutters every now and then, but it still looks just as good as 240 1080p. Alright. And then we bring it in for a goal. Very little drop, but nonetheless, looks great. Let's go ahead and try out the next lowest. I'm not going to try 90 or 60 FPS because normally people can get a little bit higher than that on some pretty good gaming monitors. Okay, because we ran out of time on the last one, just restart the timer so we have a little bit more time to showcase the last little bit of graphics. So again, we'll go down to 120 on high quality. Not looking too awfully bad. I can definitely tell that this is 120 FPS. It just feels kind of choppy. If you're looking for very responsive gameplay, I would say 120 is your best bet. It doesn't feel the greatest, but it does feel pretty quick. The goal does knock us down a little bit. Let's try out 120 FPS on performance, just to give you a comparison. And we're keeping a steady 120. Doesn't look bad at all. Just slightly worse than 240 1080. It looks more like 144 1080p, but it still looks okay. Overall, not bad. Just wouldn't recommend it because there does seem like I'm losing some pixels, but it looks great nonetheless. I wouldn't say this is unplayable. This is honestly a really good gaming experience. And not really much to lose. It feels great, it looks great. I don't have any problems with it. So overall, 4K seems great. Although it's not for everybody. It's very, very taxing on anybody's system unless you have top of the line stuff. I would definitely recommend for competitive gaming, go with 1080p. It's still pretty good. You don't get the worst quality, and you definitely save some resources. So, in my opinion, 4K is great if you want it for the experience, but if you're playing competitively and you want to save those frames, go with 1080p. But let's go ahead and move on to the next section. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off with our settings on how to make you feel a little bit faster. I know you've probably seen pros being able to turn on a dime or just have ultimate control over their car, just a lot of rapid, quick movements. So that's really what we're trying to go for here. Make really tiny adjustments very quickly. We'll go over a couple of those things. The most important setting is going to be your actual video settings in 1080. Go ahead and turn off anti-aliasing. Render quality, I keep it on high. Depending on what your FPS recommends, mine recommends 480. Just go ahead, honestly, if you want, turn everything to performance and make sure your effect intensity is set to low. And now we see that our FPS has jumped up to a solid 480. Every now and then it'll dip down to like 479. So that's what we can do video settings wise. The game may not look as pretty, but trust me, you are getting the fastest frame response time, and most likely the least amount of stutters will do you good when you need those frames. So with most of those settings, I would say keep your FPS on recommended always. It can vary based on frame rate or GPU, because sometimes even though it says a recommended frame rate doesn't mean you should do it. If you're really struggling on something like 240, even though it says 239.99, just go and drop it to 144. It'll help you out, and it will help your system from A, overheating, but B, just losing that necessary frame rate that you want to keep. Next up, we'll go over actual sensitivities. Okay, so right now, this is my sensitivities. I've kind of changed it since my last video, but steering sense is at 1.75, aerial is at 1.8, the dead zone is 0.13, and dodge dead zone 0.82. I'll talk more on that in a little bit, but vibration off. Ball cam is always toggle, and this keyboard stuff, if you play on it, it's useful. I don't, so I won't be going over that. Okay. So let's just say you have your steering sensitivity all the way up at 10. Almost nobody plays with this, I'm just going to say that. But what happens is your car starts turning really, really fast. It's very, very sensitive to essentially any movement. So I sometimes see some people play with like 6.2 and below, I have seen a 10 before, and I can tell you it's just outrageous, but I like to keep that at 7.5. Okay, next is your aerial sense. This is how fast you're going to be moving in the air. If you turn it up to, let's just say 6, it's going to go a little bit quicker. It's going to be very, very responsive. You don't have to do that. That's going to essentially lead you to flying out of control. Okay, and your controller dead zone. There is a lot of videos out there explaining what controller dead zone does, the very, very fine details of it. All you need to know is controller dead zone is just how sensitive and how quick your joystick in-game is going to react to your movements outside of it. So right now on point 3, if I were to move my joystick to the left, my car would respond very quickly. But let's just say I had it even lower. I don't know, like all the way down to the minimum. It would respond almost instantaneously and be subject to controller stick drift. There's a very, very slight chance that your car is just going to move on its own. So in my case, I have it at 0.13, which is a good little median for me. It works. If you want your car to respond a little bit slower, or you have, I don't know, a lot of stick drift, some people keep it up at 0.2 or above. But for the most part, anything below 0.2, especially if your controller's in good condition, should be fine. It really just depends on how sensitive you want your car to be to your movements on the joystick. Next up, we got dodge dead zone. So I have it on 0.82 simply because I want to stall, which is a whole other mechanic that I will not be going over, but I do know that it is how quickly your jumps respond to your clicks. So let's just say you press the jump once and then front flip with it at 0.82. It's most likely going to take a little bit before it reads that you have clicked that jump button again, and then it will lunge you forward. If you have it very low, you'll notice that you can double jump relatively quickly, almost instantaneously. There's really not going to be much delay in between. So far, we've gone over in-game refresh rate, FPS, steering sensitivities, dead zones. Next, I want to go over one last method that will make you feel like you're playing a lot faster, and that is training. Yes, training will make you feel like you're playing a little bit faster. Here's why. You can also do this in private match, but personally, I like to play in training with it. Turn your game speed down. You can play with 50. I sometimes just train with 50 because why not? But 80 to 85 is a good sweet spot. This slows down your car, but also makes your brain actually think about what you're doing. So let's just say, I don't know, you're trying to work on resets. You're now having to use your brain to make those tiny micro adjustments in slow-mo. So while you're learning how to do a certain mechanic, you're also training your brain to think and make those tiny adjustments so that when you turn up the speed, you are ultimately going to feel, which most people have reported, like you are playing 10 times faster. And even though you're simply just playing at, you know, normal speed, it's because your brain has been focusing on how to do those tiny little adjustments in slow-mo that when you switch to, you know, 100% speed again, you're going to feel a lot quicker. But I will warn you, though you might feel quicker and like you can do so much more, move around the field a lot more, I would not recommend trying to enter into like a ranked game all cocky that you can do that. Chances are you are just going to want to play faster, attack the ball quicker, and it's going to become a big mess for you and your teammates. If it works one game, great. I would not recommend going into every single game like that unless you have a teammate or friend, somebody that you know, and letting them know that you're going to be trying out your newfound speed. Anyway, we'll bring it back to 100, and while I personally don't feel any difference, it's because I haven't trained in that for long enough. I'd say spend around 5 to 10 minutes just playing in free play, anywhere from 80 to 85%. You can try 50, but at that point it just becomes very, very stagnant almost. Your brain kind of starts going elsewhere when you're in 50%. Anywhere from 65 or lower, your brain kind of just, you know, wanders off because you're not really doing as much. 80% to 85% really keeps you in that awake position where you don't have to wait 2 seconds to reach the ball from the wall. So on a final note, I did want to talk about one last thing that may or may not be of help to you, but it is a little something that does help out freestylers. A lot of you may not know what it's called, but it's a little application called DS for Windows. Now you might be wondering, what is DS4 Windows? Well, DS4 Windows is an application that allows you access to Square Dead Zones. Now what Square Dead Zone does is it enables you to lose that dead space on a controller, because normally you have a dead zone in the shape of a circle, and basically left or right there's still dead space there. What Square Dead Zone does is it helps to try and eliminate it by making that red area now playable. It can help you with mechanics on the ground, half flips, a lot of little things. But I thought I'd just give you a little tutorial on how to download that, and honestly, you guys will have to figure out whether or not it works for y'all, because it's all personal preference at the end of the day, and this video has gone on long enough, so let's get to downloading DS4 Windows. Okay, so what you're first going to want to do is just search up DS4 Windows, and it should pull up. You're going to want to click this first link here. What it's going to do is it's going to take you to this little download now. Do not press that. Don't press any of these. These are just random ads. What you want to press is download here. Click X. And now you can look at the actual download here. I already have it downloaded, but you would essentially click this and then open up the file. You can scan it for viruses. It's virus free. To my knowledge, I haven't had anything happen to my PC. Everything seems fine. And it will ask you to download some executables and restart your PC, so be ready to do that too. So once you have DS4 Windows open, you're going to see whatever controller you have connected. Okay, so you're going to want to click Edit. This is going to take you into its mainframe essentially. You're going to see all of your binds, you're going to see dead zones, anti-dead zones, a lot of stuff that, you know, looks like junk. It pretty much is. What we're going to be focusing on now is your dead zone and your square stick. Alright, so just go ahead and turn your dead zone to 0. I think most of these just come default, so if you want to copy these, if they are not default, go ahead and do so. When we come down to output curve, we want to make sure that square stick is enabled. This normally by default is not enabled, so go ahead and turn that on. I have it at 5. That is just my preference. All of this stuff, fuzz, rotation, anti-snapback, do not worry about that. Okay, so once you do that, click apply and then save. It will make you download this thing called HidHide. And what HidHide will do, you go to your settings. If you want to hide your controller, so basically it will give you a virtual controller with its own settings, binds, all that stuff. Normally it's okay, but if you want to hide that virtual controller, because sometimes it will mix up PS4 controllers and Xbox controllers, or maybe PS5 controllers and Xbox controllers, occasionally there have been times that a dual controller has been enabled, so it acts as a second controller being connected, and so whenever you press like your options button in game, it will add a second person to your party. That gets annoying. You'll have to mess with HidHide. I can make a video on that. It is a process because I had it once and I fixed it, never thought of it again, but I do know roughly what to do if that happens. So now, if you go back into Rocket League, as picked up as a PS5 controller, there is X, circle. It will feel a little weird. There are some things like, I don't know, breezes, just basic car control that may or may not feel a little bit smoother. I know that this is very overhyped on social media and hasn't really been talked about until recently through like YouTube Shorts and TikTok, saying how like, you know, my life before Square Dead Zone, my life after. It's really just not true. That dead space that you have there doesn't really make a difference. I don't really know many people except for freestylers that use this. I don't necessarily know any professionals that use DS4 controller. I don't believe it's banned in tournament or competition setting, so it's fine if you use it. It's not like some sort of hack. It's not gonna get you banned, to my knowledge, as of right now. Something later might prevent people from playing with DS4 controllers, but for now, it's perfectly safe, legal, and I would recommend using it if you just want to test out some new way to feel faster. In my opinion, I've tried DS4 Windows, and while yes, I sometimes feel a little bit better with it, I normally just don't use it because I'm never going to use a Square Dead Zone on any other game except for Rocket League. Hey look, you made it to the end of the video. Overall, would I say that 4K gaming is worth it? Not yet. I would definitely say wait until games are more optimized for 4K, but if you would like to play games for the experience rather than competitive setting, 4K all the way. Great graphics, lovely color, I love it. Use it for the immersive experience. Would I say that those settings I showed you to become faster really make you faster? Not necessarily, it's personal preference. And should you use DS4 Windows? That is completely up to you. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and it will most likely be a little bit before I post another long form video because these are very hard to make by myself. I have no other editors except for myself, but let me know if there's any critiques you have, if the content just wasn't really engaging enough. I really am just trying to learn how to improve my content for you guys and talk about stuff that actually has meaning and worth to y'all. Or else I'm kind of just talking to the air because I don't want to really cater stuff to you guys that you guys don't even want. So anyway, I'm going to stop yapping. That's it for me. I will see you guys next time. Like and subscribe. Bye.